a friend is someone that you allow into a level of intimacy. An acquaintance is someone that you probably meet in a gathering. You guys will vibe. You'd have a good time together. But once you are out of that place, that's it.
When you're going through rough patches in your life, you have to be mindful of where people are at mentally as well.
Ooh.
So sometimes not everybody can actually take on that load of your personal problems that you're sharing with them. You need to look at the good that came out of that particular season with that person. Don't see it as a form of regret.
Friends with benefits, that terminology that gets thrown around and has a bit of a negative connotation, but in actual fact, in reality, it is what it is. Actually, your friends have to come with benefits. Right, welcome back to another episode of KFL
TV.
I go by the name of Tolu.
And I go by the name of Dami, aka D-Bex.
And of course, today we have an exciting topic that we've sort of, spoken about before.
Yes.
But I think it's a broad one, and we just want to touch on, a few things on there. And it is about friendships.
Friendships.
Yeah, and we're looking at outgrowing friendships. So today's topic is outgrowing friendships. And I think one of the motivations for us wanting to talk about this is, we're looking at our journey from when we were single to when we were married, or we're still married, to having one child, to now having two children, and how we've evolved in the sort of relationships, friends we're keeping, acquaintances we're keeping. And just as a quick recap, as we will recapitulate, like our pastor will say.
Wow.
Yeah. I think our first video, not old video, our first video, which you should catch up on friendship, which is what kind of friends you are, what kind of friend are you? We spoke about, how the terminology friend is just being, thrown about, aimlessly. A lot of us, we have acquaintances, not friends.
And not friends.
And, just to give us a quick definition of, the difference, a friend is someone that you allow into at least a level of intimacy.
Yep.
They have access to a level of intimacy with you. So which means that, they are sort of in your quote unquote inner carcass. Whereas an acquaintance is someone that you're not necessarily, they don't necessarily have access to, intimate information about you. There's clear boundaries. An acquaintance is someone that you probably, meet in a gathering. You guys will vibe. You'd have a good time together. But once you are out of that place, that's it. Whereas a friend goes beyond, we jamming together. A friend is someone that you'd check upon, someone that, would reach out to you if they're in a fix, someone that you can reach out to when you're in a fix, and, like I said, looking at our journey, we're seeing that in the different seasons that we've been through and we're currently in, we've seen that, change.
Yeah, we have. We definitely have. I remember even from the time when we had our first child, if I'm to weigh where our friendships are at now with some people, it's different. And I guess sometimes, like people say, life happens, COVID hit in 2020, and I feel like that was a contributing factor to a lot of the friendships that I'd say we don't really have now with some people. And I don't think it's a personal thing where they've done something bad to us is why we're not friends with them. But life be life, in things happen. You find that your values are, they change, your visions change, and you have to be discerning. Like, and if I'm to look at our spiritual journey back from from where we're coming from to where we are now, it has definitely changed. We have definitely grown. Yeah,
and it's interesting that you mentioned that friendship has to have value, and I think a popular terminology that gets thrown around and has a bit of a negative connotation, but in actual fact, in reality, it is what it is. It's friends with benefits. Actually, your friends have to come with benefits. There has to, anybody you're calling a friend or anybody that is your friend has to have some form of value, a benefit that they are adding to your life.
Yeah.
Now, those benefits doesn't necessarily translates to financial benefits, right? It could be, I mean, I think in one of our videos we were talking about, some of the mentors we have, that relationship comes with value. I'd like to think that, our mentors also see some form of value in us for them to, choose, because they are choosing to
mentor us.
to mentor us, because again, it's not an entitlement that they have to. It's a privilege that we find ourselves having mentors, even from our parenting, our parents as well, perspective. And I think the same principle applies to friendships, where a few years back, once we get into a place, we vibe with someone, we get along, automatically they become our friends. But sometimes being an acquaintance is not necessarily a bad thing, and like I said, you could have some form of relationship with someone, but they don't have their access to your life is limited.
It's limited.
And that is not to say that when you have friends, the access to your life that your friends have is limitless. That's not to say that. But it just means that, there are certain intimate information, there are certain, key events in your life that
they're just not a part of.
That, the acquaintances would not just be a part of.
I wanted to just point on, what I wanted to actually point on is the fact that sometimes when you're going through rough patches in your life, you have to be mindful of where people are at mentally as well.
Ooh.
So sometimes not everybody can actually take on that load of your personal problems that you're sharing with them. We're not all at the same level mentally. Let's be real and honest with each other. So you need to also be mindful of when you're sharing information, the person that is then trying to communicate in return is not just giving you, what's the word? I don't know, what's the better word to use? They're not just giving you their own viewpoint, their own opinion based on how they are presently feeling or how they have felt about that, that personal event that, you're going through in your life. Because sometimes, unfortunately, people would give you the wrong advice. I mean, even friends sometimes. And that's why I feel like God should really be the key person, the key point that you always go back to, that you always reference to, even when you feel you want to share information with friends, So that was what I wanted to.
Yeah, I like the fact that
you
mentioned, discernment, right? Because, to your point, of course, God should be the central focus. And, if God is the central focus and, is giving us the spirit of discernment, right, then we are able to filter even the advice that we get from our friends, so to speak,
as well,
and because of that spirit of discernment, we are able to have direction from God on even which friend to speak to, because even with friendship there's levels to this, right?
Levels to it.
And in terms of value added, right? And you know what, sometimes it's okay, having people who you have relationships with that, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're beefing or you're fighting them. It just means that they're just there, they're there for the moment. I mean, a good example actually is my high school group, right?
Guys,
Objects.
that high school group, even me, I don't tire.
Objects. No, my high school group, at the moment, I'm on two separate groups, right? On one of the groups, there's about 50 of us, and on the other one, there's about close to 250, of guys that we went to secondary school together, right? Maybe one or two of them would I genuinely say are my friends. Most of them are my acquaintances. But even at that, acquaintances have some value that they bring, right? But they are just there in the moment. Would I say most of those people have, access to key events in my life, or have access to intimate, things
Yeah.
in my life. Not
Not
necessarily.
necessarily.
Does that mean I hate them? No. Does that mean we're beefing? No. It just means that for this level I am at, especially my value system, Dami mentioned, in the last, 12 years, I would say,
Yeah.
our Christian life has, is improving. We're not quite there yet. It's
Yeah.
improving. And because of our value system, it's natural that we would outgrow certain friends.
Yeah.
That's on one part. Now, because of the seasons in our life, i.e., we're married, having two kids, it's normal that we would outgrow certain friendships.
Definitely.
Even from a career perspective, it's normal
Yeah.
that we would outgrow certain friendships. Now, outgrowing friendships does not mean that you not automatically become enemies, right?
Yeah.
Then it just means that, I mean, I'm sure you have friends that you probably wouldn't talk for ages, but when you talk, it's like, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, and it's good that you've actually mentioned that, because I do have some friends that, I mean, I don't have a big friendship group, but the ones I do have, I do try my best to reach out to people, but you also find sometimes when you're overwhelmed with your own personal stuff, you forget, and I'm happy that the friendships that I have now, no one takes offense to, oh my gosh, you've not even called me in the last 2 weeks, you've not called me in the last month. It's just a case of, wherever that we've sort of left off, we pick up again, and no one is offended. And sometimes, with friendships as well, when you find yourself in a situation that you might be really confused, and at that point, all you want to do is just sit at the feet of God. You don't actually want to speak to anybody. You could have friends that you just pick up the phone and say, you know what, I don't have anything to say, but this is how I am feeling at the moment. I just want you to sit with me on the phone. Or I just want you to pray with me without even you having to explain that this is what I am going through. Yeah. So
and it's very candid that we have relationships like that where, you know,
yeah.
genuine relationship should not take offense in certain things, because at the end of the day, the most important person in each of our lives, talk about, and I'm, apart from, God, family. So for
Yeah.
me, I am the most important person in my life, right? So if a friend is taking offense that I haven't checked up on them, and this friend has not checked up on me to find out why I haven't checked up on them. So really, are you trying to say you are more important in my life than I am in my own life?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's mindset, right? It's misplaced sense of entitlement. Some people believe that maybe because you believe you belong to the same community, i.e., maybe you go to the same church or you are neighbors, automatically, you know what, they are entitled to maybe even get invites to certain events. Actually, no.
Yeah.
You know, just like I would not be offended if, I don't get invites to certain places.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, the way I see a friend will probably be different from the way that friend will see me. But the best
Yeah.
scenario is that we both know where we stand with
Where we
each other.
stand with each other.
Because
Yeah.
for the longest time, I had a best friend that in my mind, she was my best friend, and I genuinely meant that. But as it turned out, I was a good friend to her from a point of view, but not necessarily our best
My
friend.
best friend.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
But imagine me having expectation of this is my best friend. But of course, we can never be aligned in terms of that,
Yeah.
because the outlook
Yeah.
is different.
It's different.
So
Yeah.
it's always good. Anybody you call your friend or is your friend, you have the similar value system. You always have to be on the same page. You know that if this person is my friend, I'm not an acquaintance to this person.
Yeah.
And you know what? Even if the person is my friend, based on the value I perceive I get from the person,
Yeah.
and the person thinks of me as just an acquaintance, that's absolutely fine. Because it just means that maybe I need to be a more valuable person.
Yeah.
And what that translates is self-development.
Yeah, definitely. We all have to develop, as individuals, every day, we need to try and develop daily, I think. But in terms of, where you're at now, so you might be questioning that, oh, there were friends you had like 10 years ago, you guys were best friends and everything. See, one thing I always say is, every season of your life is a lesson.
Yes.
So whoever you've been friends with before and you're not friends with now, for whatever reason, you need to look at the good that came out of that particular season with that person. Don't see it as a form of regret, because, you know, God has, you know, he has outlined everybody's lives. Everyone has a path, you know. And I think the other thing you also need to look at is there's a thin line between being used and then a thin line between, oh, okay, God, what do you want me to do in this person's life? What sort of, you know, I don't know how to, I don't know if you understand what I mean.
The impacts, your assignments
in that person's life, basically. Yeah. And I think that those are things.
I think a very good example of that is actually your very, very good friend that you went to, was he secondary school and college together, and then you guys lost contact for
10 years.
10 years, and then on your 25th.
Yeah, she showed up. Yeah.
No, she didn't just show up.
Well, okay, yes, you invited her. Yeah. Yeah, and she's been there ever since.
Yeah, you know, so, you know,
that's true.
You know, there's friends in season and there's friends out of season. Yeah. And I think I can vouch for that friends, because again, if you are friends with someone and you lose contact for whatever reason, and time and season pass and you guys are still able to come back, you know, it's an amazing experience and an amazing feeling.
Definitely.
You know, but you know what, friendship is an exciting one.
Yeah, it's also another topic that
we will keep covering. This is where we are today. By next month, next year, 2 years time, 3 years time, by the time we have more information, we experience life more, you know, we grow more, we become better, God has refined us more. Maybe we would have, you know, a better understanding, a better refinement, and then possibly even invite 1 or 2 people and see if we can get
their view
chatting,
as well.
You know, get chatting. But I think that's all we have
for you today.
Yeah. And what did we say the topic was?
Outgrowing friendships. Yeah. Guys,
this is one friend that will never outgrow, though.
Yeah, definitely.
Friendship for life.
Friendship for life.
Right. All right, guys. You know what to do. Until next episode, make sure you like, subscribe,
share,
leave a comment. You know, we want to hear from you guys. So, yeah, thanks for listening.
Thank you, guys.